This is the table which I bought from a Facebook group, a local group. It's obviously old, it's had some work done to it before. The glass, however, does lift out, which I checked before I bought it, and I'll be able to touch up the frame by rubbing it down and painting that again. So the first thing I needed to do was take out the glass and give it a good clean, and then measure it, and now I could start working on a design. Some people prefer to do their designing by hand, some prefer to do it on a computer. I'm one of the latter. So I've used this program called GIMP to work out my design. I started by doing this basic shape at full size. If I take the guides off from there we go. Take the guides off, you can see the basic shape with the chessboard in the middle. Now I've already decided I want dragons around the outside, so I went online and found an image I liked, which was this one. Unfortunately, it doesn't quite fit the space I've got, so I took a copy of that over to my design, and I had a bit of a mess around with it to make it the right size and fit in place. Once I'd done that, I took that image and made a template for it like that. That is the same size. You can see I've made an outlining template from it. I want to change it slightly. I've stretched it here, but I want to lose some of that thickness. I want to take out the forked tail and the forked tongue, etc. So I'm going to do that by outlining a test piece and then taking another image of that. So here's the design I printed off, and here's the test piece I've made from it. As you can see, I've painted the dragon. I also did some squares, testing out different colour combinations possible for the chessboard, and I did experiment here with some of the gold and silver colours. I was thinking of incorporating some of that into the design, but I did in the end decide against it. But anyway, I've got my coloured dragon here. I did take a picture of it when it was just an outline. I'm taking another picture of it when it's coloured. So now we can go back to the computer, back to the design program, and add these images to it. Here are the two images I took of the test piece. A black and white one, well, just outlined on that one, and one after I'd painted it. Now I used both of those to take back yet again to my main design, and with the one just outlined I turned them green and used them to make my template. Slight closer look there. One which had been painted, I decided to do a colour copy of the design, so I coloured the background and then I coloured the dragons, or used the coloured dragons. If you're wondering how I got the green one, I just played with the colour settings in this to change the red to green, and that gives you an impression of what my finished item is going to look like. Anyway, now I have the design. We take the colour copy away and put the green one back. Now this is 18 inches by 18 inches when cut down, and unfortunately my computer can't handle that. So here I've done another copy, cropped it right back to the 18 inches and put these guidelines in. Now GIMP has a wonderful feature where I can now ask it to cut this piece up into these 6 segments. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and that'll make it suitable for printing on my printer, which only does A4. Image, transform, guillotine, and if you look at the bottom, each of the 6 images comes up, and I'll be able to print those off and stitch them together. Finally, I have my finished design. As you can see, I've stuck the 6 pieces together. Right, now we obviously want to put the glass on top of that, and here it is. I have given it a clean. There are a couple of scratches on it, and I've made sure those are underneath. Now, obviously, I want to make sure I get this in the correct place. And that looks about right. These pieces will disappear into the edge, and I'm quite happy with it doing that. I've also decided the very outside line I'm going to do with adhesive lead. Now, you don't have to do that, you can use the liquid lead, but I'm thinking it may get knocked, etc, etc, and I'll get a nice clean line around the edge with adhesive lead. Right, what we need now is our blue tack, which I have here, and I need to fix, at least temporarily, the design onto the glass. Right, I'm hoping that's enough blue tack to keep it still for now. Now the next bit is, I won't say it's a cheat, it's a little trick I use occasionally. You may not have this, but I find it easier. It's actually a cake decorating turntable, and I'm going to put it under there like that, and that will just help me to move it round as I'm working. Now I have got this bit of paper which I use as a wedge, so when I want to stop it turning I can just wedge that in underneath, and it gives a little bit of resistance. But in the meantime, that means I can turn it round and outline carefully. So I'm ready for outlining. I've got my outliner, which in this case is plaid liquid lead. I've made myself up a little piping bag. If you haven't used a piping bag before, please watch one of our videos on doing it. I'll try and put a link at the top of this video. A couple of things I wanted to mention before I carried on. I realise I haven't. One, you can see the side of a camera. I will sort that out for future videos, but we just have to live with it for now. The other one is, and I haven't mentioned this, it's really important, what I'm working on is the bottom of the glass, the underneath. When I put it in the table, I'm going to turn it upside down so the glass painting is underneath the glass and people can use the table without damaging it or scratching it, etc. Thought I'd better mention that because it's important. Right, let's get on with the outlining. I have also got here a pair of scissors, and I've got a little square of kitchen towel just to knock the end off the outlining every now and then. As normal with the outliner, if I make a mistake, I'm just going to leave it to dry, and then I'll cut it out later. The outliner in the bag. Fold the end of the bag up, hopefully without any outliner coming out. Roll it down. And now cut the end off to the thickness of the line I want. A tad more. There we go. That should be fine. Right. And now to get on with the outlining. Normal technique, just touch and lift. You need to remember that there's actually, this glass is quite thick, so there is a gap between the design and where we're outlining. That'll probably be, well, that is definitely one bit which will be cut out later. Right, so I shall leave that to dry now. There are obviously a couple of places I'm a little bit unhappy with, so those will get cut out once dried and replaced. But for now, I'll leave that to dry, and I'm off to try and do something with the frame of the table. So now I'm ready for the next bit. Now, as you can see, I have cut out the errors in my grid, and I will be fixing those in a little while. But first, I want to use this, which is the stick-on lead, and I'm going to put this all the way around the edge. Remember, this is the underneath, so it's actually the bottom of it which will be seen. But putting it around the edge should give a nice finish to the edge. It doesn't matter if you don't have this, but I prefer it. So the adhesive lead is now all the way around the edge, and I'm back to the piping again. As you can see, I've cut out that bit, and those I will be replacing before I start on the dragon. Right, notice when I cut them out, I didn't cut part way through the line. I've made sure they're sort of whole lines. And that's the corrections done. Now I'm going to go on and pipe the dragon. It's actually not as difficult as it looks. Straight lines were more difficult. If you make a little error on the dragon, most times it won't show. Obviously in those straight lines I did, there's a mistake that I can cut off, every error showed very clearly. The main problem here is the depth of the glass. Right, so that's one dragon done. Just another 3 to go. Right, you may have thought we'd finished for now, but actually there's something left to do. Those eagle-eyed amongst you will have spotted there's a lot more detail on the dragon than on my design, and this is where my pen comes in. If you haven't used a pen in your glass painting before, I've done a couple of videos on that subject, so just take a look at those. It's a special pen. It's a paint marker, and this one's made by ZR. I wish I had one just a tad thinner, but we'll make do with this, and I'm going to use it for the eyes, like that, and then these little marks on the skin. Now this will dry, and we'll be able to paint over the top. So, again, I need to go through and do the other 3. Then, finally, it should be ready for painting, which we'll cover in the next video. I've finished all the pen work now. I have gone back over it and just taking little bits off I'm not happy with. You just scrape them off with a craft knife. Apart from that, the pen's permanent. Right, so that's the whole piece finished, ready for painting, which we'll look at in the next video. Well, hope you enjoyed the project so far. If you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe and like the video, and you also have to hit the bell icon if you want to be notified of new videos. If you're on our website, don't forget to join the email list. We'll also let you know when there's new projects and videos out. Happy crafting!